Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Vice President of Events and Industry Strategy, SME, Debbie Holton, and
TCT 2018. I'm joined here by Jim Woodcock, who is with Rapid News Publications, our partner. This event this year has exceeded expectations on every level. We've seen so many amazing things this week, right? Met some incredible people, and I don't know about you, Jim, but I think my brain is full.
I think you might be right, Debbie. I think the brain was full there. I am Jim Woodcock. I am the VP of Content Strategy and Partnerships from Rapid News, owners of TCT, if you didn't catch that. There's definitely been enough over the last 3 days to fill even the most curious mind on the show floor and through the conference. And I'd like to speak for the whole TCT team and say how proud I am of the work that the partnership with SME has delivered here for Rapid plus TCT. That partnership is the bedrock for us of this event, but it's also a partnership with all of you, every speaker and sponsor, exhibitor, attendee and delegate. We count you all as partners as well. It's only when we all come together the really, truly amazing things happen. I think we've all seen this week the amazing things that have come on the show floor. Breakthroughs on the technology side are really fueling wider adoption of 3D printing, additive manufacturing, and the supporting technologies across a whole range of industries. And I know some of you guys have been chipping away at this for more than 30 years now, but we are still only at the beginning. We're really just scratching the surface of what we can achieve.
Exactly. And none of this would be possible without the tireless efforts of the remarkable team that makes this Rapid Plus TCT event happen. I'd like to thank my team and the village that puts this amazing event together. Let's take a moment and give this A-team a big round of applause. You guys are rock stars. Thank you. So now, if you guys want to get your devices or your phones out, we have another poll for you. Audience participation. Hopefully you weren't out too late last night. And you can open up the Rapid Plus TCT event app or go to slido.com. And whether you're online or in the app, you need to enter the code RAPIDEVENT, which is all one word. Everybody good? We're going to get started. Let's go to the poll. America Makes, which their booth space is right back here next to ours at SME, they're polling the crowd here on the future of our industry. So we're going to ask the same question of you, which is, where will you be investing in the future? Is it machines, materials, post-processing, training, or design tools? Let's see. Everybody start voting. It's amazing.
I love this bit. I love this bit.
Right? I love it too. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I mean, we've got a pretty clear winner there, and the machine vendors are going to be very happy, but it just goes to show there's a spread across. I mean, there's no one single solution. If you want to really make the most of AM, you've got to go for all of these.
Right, it's pretty well balanced. I know that their ping pong ball voting was leaning heavily towards materials, so it's good to know that the machines are coming back as well, so that's great. Thanks.
Okay, and while you've all got your phones out, we'll go on and do a second poll this morning. So referring back to the video that we've all seen, we'd like to know, what does your next 360 look like? What have you got plans for the next 360 plus days? So how much more do you think your company will be expanding in AM in the next 360 days? And your choices are 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, or more than 51%.
Holy moly. That's a big one.
This is good news.
This is good news. I guess for everybody, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Investments have to happen. That's fantastic. So thanks, everyone, for voting. This is all great. We're going to be posting some of this on the website after the event, so hopefully you'll come back and take a look at what your peers were thinking. So it's great. So by bringing the most experienced and influential community in 3D manufacturing together, we've really seen firsthand this week how additive manufacturing technology is being used every day to save energy, save lives, build better and stronger parts, and so much more. It's incredible.
It is incredible, and we're excited here today to be able to recognize SME's Additive Manufacturing Community Award winners. It is becoming increasingly difficult to stand out in such a dynamic industry, something that we've all seen on the show floor, the incredible investment and creativity that the vendors have gone to show you their wares and how proud they are of their research, the fruits of their labors. There are so many exhibitors who have provided dynamic technology and experiences this year, but we're going to recognize those exemplary exhibitors through the Rapid Plus TCT People's Choice Award and Exhibitor Innovation Award. So please now help me welcome to the stage SME's Additive Manufacturing Technical Community Chair, Jeff DeGrange, and Dr. Jennifer Fielding, who are going to announce our award winners.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Debbie. I'm Jeff DeGrange, the Chief Commercial Officer of Impossible Objects, Inc., and the current chair of SME's Additive Manufacturing Community. It's been a wonderful event this week, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. As part of SME's Additive Manufacturing Community performs acting as judges for various awards given throughout the week here at Rapid and TCT. Earlier this week, we acknowledged researchers and career achievers and the up-and-comers with our 3 long-standing awards. Now we're happy to recognize our Rapid TCT Exhibitor and People Choice Awards and Exhibitors Innovation Award. Before we introduce this year's winner, we'd like to thank Stratasys for printing the awards given out today. The Rapid and TCT Award winners recognizes the winning Rapid and TCT exhibit for being interactive, aesthetically, and technically impressive, and visually appealing and engaging. So thank you all who voted for this year's winner, Desktop Metal. Please welcome Desktop Metal team to the stage. The Rapid TCT Exhibitor Innovation Award recognizes the most innovative new product or services exhibited at the conference that are judged to have the greatest potential impact on the industry. Over the last several days, we visited many of the exhibitors to choose this year's winner. Out of 25 submissions, there were 3 finalists chosen. The first being Meld Manufacturing for their product titled Meld in booth 2535. The second, Nano Dimensions for their product titled Hybrid Part and Circuit Print in booth 434. And Post Process Technologies for their product titled Hybrid Deci Dual, booth 631. And now I'm excited to announce that we've chosen Meld Manufacturing for their product titled MELD. Please welcome MELD Manufacturing to the stage to accept the award. Congratulations again, MELD Manufacturing. And now we have a very special announcement. Metal additive manufacturing has grown exponentially over the last 5 years. The technology is not only allowing manufacturers to increase speed to market, but it's also giving them the capability to build stronger, lighter parts and improve efficiency, reduce weight, and create new products and geometries that couldn't be done before. It's estimated that there's 1,768 metal machines sold in 2017 compared to 983 systems in 2016. So that's almost an 80% increase. To maximize this potential, it's critical that the existing workforce is trained in AEM technologies, whether it be through degree programs, engineering degrees, engineering applications, and development. So SME's addressing this issue head on. We're working together with the additive manufacturing community advisors, and SME is releasing a new report titled Experts in Demand Growth in AEM Creates the Need for Professionals. This report provides a competency model for in-demand job descriptions for AEM positions, along with knowledge, skills, and abilities for the roles and functions that make up these new metal additive manufacturing jobs. The job descriptions and requirements can be used by potential employers to accelerate the recruiting process. To download this report, visit www.sme.org/AM3dmetals/ For the next part of our program, please let me welcome Dr. Jennifer Fielding, Technical Advisor, Propulsion Structures and Manufacturing Enterprise Branch of Air Force Research Lab. Dr. Fielding has worked in additive manufacturing for the last 8 years, including launching America Makes, the first manufacturing innovation institute on additive manufacturing in 2012. She now approximately oversees a portfolio of $30 million of additive manufacturing research for the Air Force. Jennifer is the incoming chair of SME's additive community. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jeff. So I've had the privilege of working with some outstanding individuals who have served as advisors for SME's additive manufacturing community. 2 individuals in particular, Jeff DeGrange and Jason Jones, have both served at one point as chair of SME's additive manufacturing community, and then subsequently as advisors, lending a great deal of expertise to make this particular technical community stronger, productive, and most importantly, relevant to the industry. Jeff DeGrange has served SME as an additive manufacturing community advisor since 2012. As chair, he's united the committee on strategic initiatives such as the Metals Additive Manufacturing Workforce Development Framework. And throughout Jeff's career as a major AM user and provider, Jeff has been deeply committed to the success of 3D printing. So Jeff, thank you so much for your service to SME and this technical community.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Jason, if you could come up, please. So Jason Jones has also served SME as an additive manufacturing community advisor since 2012. Under his leadership, he created a subcommittee structure allowing for focused and strategic activities in workforce development, event planning, and industry-relevant content creation. He is a passionate and very dedicated entrepreneur and technical leader, and this community has benefited greatly from Jason's involvement. So Jeff and Jason, thank you again for your continued enthusiasm toward additive manufacturing and your dedication to SME. Before they move on to other projects, we'd like to take a moment to recognize them with a small token of our appreciation. So could you please join me?
Yeah, we stay here.
Again, thank you for all your time and dedication to the community, the industry, and most importantly, SME. I'll now hand the program back to Debbie.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for recognizing the outgoing additive manufacturing community advisors. Thanks, you guys, for everything you do. We would like to thank HP for sponsoring today's keynote. So please join me in welcoming Stephen Nigro, President of 3D Printing for HP, to the stage.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Good morning, everybody. Morning. Help me out here. Good morning, everybody. All right. It was almost 2 years ago, here at Rapid, we announced our first multi-jet fusion product, the HP Jet Fusion 4200. But we also announced our strategy, our big idea, where our goal is to change how the world designs and manufactures. Or, to say it differently, to lead the next industrial revolution. So, almost 2 years later, we've made a lot of progress, and we have a lot more in front of us. But what I thought I would do here is to talk about what we're learning, because we are a learning organization, and we certainly are learning a lot. And so, I'll quickly talk about where we are as a business. I'll talk about a new product platform we're showing here at the event, but primarily I'm going to talk about our learnings. And when we think about changing how the world designs and manufacturing, what that looks like and what that takes. So, in less than 2 years, you think about this, 2 years ago we announced the product, we got it out at the end of 2016, we really started scaling the business about a year ago, so we're still very early on. But ultimately, it's about our customers. We have some great customers we're working with to scale their business together with HP. The second thing, and how we really view kind of success, is when those customers come back, and they come back to repeat and order multiple units, because that's an indication that they're scaling, and we're starting to make an impact. And we have many cases of that, and I'll talk about 2 of those before I get off the stage. Finally, we went back and looked at it, and we said, how many parts have we produced? And we estimate, since the beginning, we have produced over 3.5 million parts in this short period of time. And certainly, we're going to be producing a lot more. Second, when we announced a little under 2 years ago, we announced we're going to have an open material platform. We're going to create a platform where we thought it was critical, if we're going to change the world, to change it together. And I said at the time that our material platform, our open material platform, was probably the biggest innovation we were bringing. I mean, multi-jet fusion is cool, and it's great to geek out about it. But the open material platform was fundamentally, we felt, was one of the biggest changes to drive this industry. And we announced 4 material partners at the time. Now we're up to 8 partners, and we've actually had over 50 other material companies come and talk to us and express an interest to get on our platform. And also in this period of time, we went from not shipping anything, not selling anything, to now, of course, being a global business. We have over 65 resellers around the world, and we have 25 reference centers where people can come, because ultimately they need to get their hands on the technology. So that's great. 2 years. It's a good start. We have a lot of work to do. And so one of the things we rolled out recently, we're showing at the show, is our next generation platform. So to give you a sense of this, the 4200, kind of a high volume prototype production units, like $300,000, we introduced this Jet Fusion 300 and 500 series. Somewhere starting around in the $50,000s into the low $100,000. And so what you get is all the processing station, the build unit, the printer, all put in one convenient package. And what this does, and what its strategic intent is, threefold. First, we want to democratize multi-jet fusion. We want to get multi-jet fusion into the hands of the designers. Because if you're going to change how the world designs and manufactures, you need to get it close. It makes it easy for people to get their hands on the technology. Second, we want to enable people to now prototype with the same technology that they're using in production. So you think about ultimately being able to quickly, in your workplace, test a part, build it quickly, and then use literally the same technology in production. It will radically change the design process. And third, for the first time, since we are a voxel-level 3D printing technology, we're bringing functional color. So if you actually look at this platform, it actually is able to deliver up to 8 agents. I won't go into the technology, but we actually are delivering 7 agents in this embodiment, and that allows us to do color, and there's some pretty amazing innovation in those agents. But it's the first time ever you can do functional color. What I mean by that is strong, full color, black parts, white parts, any color you want. And this will ultimately open up new possibilities. It's like the early days. I worked on the first color inkjet printer from HP. And when we came out that printer, we weren't even sure what people would do with it. And they discovered over time. And I think you're going to see the same journey here. So I would encourage you to go check it out. It's amazing engineering, and it's really going to help change this design through production. Now, I said we're about learning. And we came out 2 years ago, and we said we want to change how the world designs and manufactures. So what is that going to take? So as we've gone on, we've learned there's 6 factors. We've kind of said there's 6 factors we believe is critical. The first 3 we see as fundamental to unlock the industry. If we don't make progress on these first 3, you can do all the great innovation work you want. You're just not going to scale this industry. First is, of course, product capabilities. You're competing against injection molding, CNC machining, etc. So you need to ultimately have a product that has the same sort of uptime, consistency, reliability that those technologies have. And in case of injection molding, it's been around for 150 years. And so that's something we have a roadmap on to go drive. Second is about ultimately the cost, the economics. And part of our strategy has always been to drive the material prices down. If you go look at our 4210 now, you'll be able to get materials at a price point that was never possible before in the industry. And we're going to continue to drive the economics. But we also said you need hundreds, if not thousands, of materials eventually. No one company is going to be able to do this, and that's why we created the open platform. So, great, you got to get that product capabilities, get the cost down, get the material prices down, get the material selection up. That is fundamental to expand this industry. If that doesn't happen, we'll continue to be a small industry. We see 3 other factors that are acceleration. One, you see a lot of examples of this, design for additive. Being able to take advantage of the complexity for free or almost free. Second, redesigning ultimately the supply chain, shipping electrons around the world versus physical products. And third, and I know there's work going on here with the group here, is standards and policies. Ultimately, there's going to have to be standards and policy works done to allow the industry to go into production. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time on design for additive, something we've learned a lot about in the last 2 years. So, that $300 and $500 HP $300 and $500 product, the Jet Fusion product, if you look at it, there's over 140 parts in that printer are 3D printed. So it's a pretty amazing accomplishment. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it's a product with the most unique 3D printed parts on it than any other product in the world. And I want to just describe quickly the story, that kind of the journey we went through on that. We were at a review with my boss, our CEO, Dion, about a year and a half ago, and he asked, how many parts are going to be 3D printed on this printer? And we said, 2025. And he's kind of like, that wasn't that compelling. And so we went back and this is part of the change. You have to go. The designers, and you think about these are designers, typically 20 plus years with HP. They're the designers who design our high volume inkjet printers. They're some of the best in the world. So we had to go back and we had to educate and kind of understand, help them understand, our designers understand what is possible. Now, what was amazing about this is we had, and actually I see Dave Tucker is one of them, who went and worked with the team. It's not like we had a massive effort. It was actually surprisingly easy to go talk to the designers and share, here's how you should think about design. But it wasn't just about how to design differently. It ultimately was how you manufacture. Understanding kind of design and manufacturing. Case in point is like we literally ended up changing designs so they could actually pack better in the build bed. So you had this interaction between design and manufacturing. And by doing this, it allowed us to go from 20 to 25 parts to over 140 parts. And by the way, every part that we're printing makes business sense. So we're not doing this just to make a point. It had to pass the hurdle of being a good business decision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share two of my favorite examples from there. But if you actually go over to our booth, you actually can, on the side of the booth, there's actually an example of a lot of these parts. And if you can grab somebody from HP, they can actually walk you through some of the parts and some of the features of it. And they're like really cool to see and see the unique features that ended up coming out of this. So the first example, this probably will look familiar for people in the industry. It's combining parts, designing for assembly. And this is actually a manifold in the product itself. If you kind of think of this, if we had built this product or this component using traditional manufacturing approaches, it would have been 14 unique components. And you can see the economics there, that this is all how it played out. If you look at the number of components, the assembly, kind of looking at if we're producing 9,000 of these, kind of the tooling costs we estimate, et cetera. And what you see is you go from 14 components, which include brackets, cable clips, et cetera, putting all that functionality into that one part. And now you have one unified part, higher quality, more consistency than you do if you have to combine a lot of parts together. And if you go over and you look at the wall, you'll notice a lot of clips, little features, just a lot of clever little design ideas that came out of this initiative. Now, the second, and this is actually my favorite. It's a bit subtle, but this is actually my favorite. So it turns out, late in the development of our 3 and 500, we discovered we needed to add 2 new subsystems. I mean, I'm talking not that long ago. And without these subsystems, we could not get an accurate representation of the system to allow us to get into system testing and actually debug it. And so what the design engineers came up with, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, it wasn't a subsystem that could be completely 3D printed. So what they said is, okay, what we're going to do is we'll use very simple standard components, sheet metal that you bend simply, commodity components, things that you could get turned around quickly. And they put all the design complexity into the 3D printing portion of that subsystem. And what that allowed them to do is really quickly turn around, get a functional subsystem up and running, not be limited by tooling, and then rapidly iterate. And we've been rapidly iterating the subsystem, and we were able to quickly get the subsystem built in, and of course it had to fit into the system, these 2 subsystems, and get quickly into system testing. You can see we went and asked, and we said, like, if you guys had to do this if you didn't have 3D printing available and you didn't take this approach, what would have been the delay? And this would have ultimately been a delay to the program. It would have been anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So for me, thank God, these guys came up with that. And that's the price, the benefit of this is beyond belief. So those are 2 examples of what happens when you really embrace kind of this design for additive, design for 3D. So what did we learn? We learned first a couple things. If you're going to really go after it needs an organization mandate. And you see this inside of our company, and you certainly see it outside. If you're going to engage, there needs to be a top-down, because it just doesn't happen organically. Second, training and knowledge sharing. Now, what was amazing for me is, our guys, David, we actually had the two Davids actually helping the design engineers, 2 people working part-time with our designers. It wasn't that dramatic. It really wasn't that dramatic. Our designers were able to embrace and actually integrate this thinking quickly. And third, it also involves the right application. Because only with the right applications will you be able to kind of make this all work out. And you can see there's some great applications on our printer. So the other thing we've learned in the 2 years, it is all about applications. You really need to understand that application. In fact, as an organization, we actually have created an application group because without that, you really don't solve the customer product. And so I'll give you 2 of my favorite recent applications involving multi-jet fusion. So the first application actually is this custom weave sandal. This is actually Chris Bellamy, an engineer at Weave. He ran the Boston Marathon in under 3 hours wearing these sandals. And of course, inside these sandals is multi-jet fusion, mass customization, and they went with multi-jet fusion because of the mass customization, the quality, cost, and durability of it. And it's just a great example, and you can see actually it's driving into a production application. The second example, just really recently, it's really cool, clever, is actually from the Black Panther, and you can kind of see this creative packaging using this multi-jet fusion case that sits on top of this holder. And it reminds me of our graphics business. If you've ever seen the Share a Coke campaign, customized label, which is actually done on HP digital printing technology, the same sort of thing here. Kind of super creative applications. And of course, they ended up going with multi-jet fusion because I love the matte black. And again, the cost and the durability. And they did a bake-off between all 3D printing technologies that come up with this answer. So when you do that, you get into those production, that's how you get scale. And you saw this week 2 examples of that. J-Bill, a partner of ours, has ordered another 6 4210s, and they're going to set up a manufacturing operation in Singapore. Forecast 3D, one of our lead customers, they made a bet. They put 12 4200s in place because they just kind of believed. They have filled those 12 units up, and now they've ordered another 6 4210s because they've ran out of capacity. So those are great examples. So when you get that cost, get the quality, drive the applications, embrace 3D, amazing things can happen. So hopefully you get a sense of the learnings. So it's not only about great products, it's about putting that all together and driving that analog to digital transformation. Thank you. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Terry Wohlers. So about 3 years ago, I moved from running our 2D printing business at HP to joining 3D printing and leading the 3D printing business. Literally, the first thing I did is I went out and got the Wohlers report. I do a lot of traveling, carried that thing. It's a little heavy. And I read it on the flight, cover to cover. There was nothing better to get me up to speed on the industry, and I look at it every year. Terry has been around. I don't want to say a long time, but he's been around a long time. I think this is his 26th Rapid that he's participated in, and he has great insights. So with that, please welcome Terry Wohlers. Terry.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here, isn't it? Great to be alive right now, to see all this fantastic stuff. My goodness. How many people were here Tuesday night? Wasn't that fantastic? That was great, wasn't it? Thank you, SME. And thank you, SME and Rapid News Publications, the producer of the TCT family of products, for making this possible. And it's just really a pleasure to be here. And thank you all for being here as well. I appreciate it very much. So what you see on the left is the F-35. Some of you probably know that they build this product not far from here. And I had the pleasure of touring the facility not long ago. An employee, Brian Rosenberger, got me in there, and he informed me Tuesday that his program called Project Lightspeed in 1997 really was the beginning of their metals program at Lockheed Martin. When I went through that facility, I was in awe. I mean, talk about being proud to be in America. I mean, absolutely phenomenal, just stunning. Of course, it's not just the U.S. Australia and other countries were involved in the development of this incredible, incredible product. So thank you, Brian. Are you here? Yeah? All right. Well, thank you very much for being here today and for getting me into the facility. We're going to talk about industry growth, new approaches to design, post-processing. We're going to talk about product variety and digital inventories, how important they are. A little bit about research and development, too. There's a lot going on, really surprising amount of effort and money being spent on that. And then a peek into the future as well. And in fact, a lot of this over the next few minutes, the theme really is, the future and really printing the future. And I ask this, too, if you would respect my wish to not use either still images or video, I would appreciate that very much. So after 30 years, the industry is still rocking and rolling. I mean, look at this. We grew by $1.25 billion last year. And it wasn't that long ago the entire industry was less than that. And so it's very strong. The top part of the bars are services. You can see they're a bit more robust than the products. Products being mostly systems and materials, services being predominantly service providers, but other services as well. And so it's going well. If you look at the industrial systems, we define those as systems that sell for $5,000 or more. This is a picture of the machine manufacturers worldwide. We counted 97 in 2016. Last year, or beginning of this year, 135 machine manufacturers worldwide. And we think that that number is low. There are more machines manufacturers than that in Asia and elsewhere. Unless you can read every language in the world, it's impossible. You go to websites and it's hard to know. But that's a quadrupling in 4 years. And this is a distribution of those machine manufacturers around the world. You can see the majority are in Europe, followed by China. And then number 3 is the U.S. It used to be number 1. In fact, the entire pie chart was the U.S. in the beginning. And so times have changed. The second part of this line graph shows the number of companies that sold more than 100 machines, because a lot of these 135 may have sold just a handful last year. And so this is a view. So 26 of the 135 sold as many as 100 machines last year. This is, we found this is very interesting. We like to look at, we collect a lot of data from a lot of sources worldwide every year. And then we look at it and we sleep on it and we talk with our team. And it's like, what's really interesting about this? And that's what my attempt is to share some of these trends. And one is this. So the green part of this pie are the established systems. So out of 92 service providers from 26 countries, they told us, which systems they purchased. And the less established systems, the newer systems, more than 40% of those companies bought systems from the newcomers. And that's up from 27.5% last year. That's pretty dramatic, we thought, and we thought we would share that with you. And then this was really the big news of the year for us. And I believe Jeff DeGrange mentioned this, and this was from some of our work, and we found that the growth was about 80% in just 1 year. And I should say that part of that growth, and so these are units. These are number of machines, metal AM machines, the majority being powder bed fusion, but there's some other machines as well. So Desktop Metal reported sales for the first time in 2000, 17, and so they reported 357 machines, and then the Chinese reported about 213 across 12 companies. So you add that up, that's a fairly significant percentage of that 1768. So it's important, I think, to, the devil's in the details, and these are some details to know about. But still, phenomenal growth, 2.5 times in 2 years, and almost 9 times in 5 years. So that's why we're seeing metal parts now in the Stratasys exhibit. HP is showing metal parts, and a host of other companies as well. Metal is smoking hot. So, yeah, this is interesting too. We thought that more than half of those 92 companies from those 20-some countries now offer metal. It wasn't long ago that nobody offered, no service providers, no companies offered metal. And now more than half offer metal, and some, of course, offer both metal and polymer. So, what's additive manufacturing's dirty little secret? Anyone want to guess? So the answer was when Debbie showed those questions, what investments are you going to make? Where are you going to spend your dollars? And the top was machines, just a while ago. And one of the answers is the answer to this question. Who wants to guess? Post-processing, absolutely. And I was surprised that it was one of the lowest. It's really easy to buy technology, and you can go into companies, user companies, customers of these machines. They'll show you their machines all day long and their materials, but then in the back hidden are their post-processing, the IP that really is something that they've taken years to develop. And if you ignore that, if you neglect the importance and the expense of post-processing, you will be unpleasantly surprised, especially with metals, So don't underestimate the importance of post-processing, as well as pre-processing. Imagine a company having 5,000 machines at 50 sites around the world and trying to manage the capacity and track all of the jobs around the world. So pre-processing is important too, and preparing the data designed for additive manufacturing is vitally important. This is the data that we came up with for those 92 companies that provided information to us, and you can see that the pre and post processing is quite a bit lower in polymers than it is in metals. Daimler, EOS, and Premium Aerotech, which is a company owned by Airbus, put together a program last year to really concentrate on pre and post processing. They claim for metal additive manufacturing as much as 70% can be tied to the cost of a metal part can be tied to pre and post processing. I look around the room and I see all these empty seats. Do you suppose we can fill all these seats in a few years? If you look at the growth trajectory of this industry, maybe so. We might need to get Katy Perry here to help out, though. She might be a bigger draw than, with all due respect, Stephen and Terry here. But maybe. Does anyone know her? But the point is, I think we do have the potential to fill these seats in the future. Wouldn't that be fun? So, so this is a manifold. And you can see the machine versions on the left, and then it's shelled in the middle, and then you give wall thickness to it, and you have the one that can be 3D printed in metal. And so how would you build this? If you're building this in metal, and I know we have a lot of experts in this room. In fact, I was talking to exhibitors, and they said the quality, the experience of the crowd this year is so much higher than in years past. So I know we have a lot of expertise out here. How would you build this? What orientation? Would it be like that? Now the blue, they're the support structures, also referred to as anchors because they anchor the part and the features down to the build plate, and it transfers heat down. And if you don't build these in a powder bed system, the part, because of the heat, will distort, and so you need those, but it's metal against metal, it's welded together, you have to remove that. Even inside the little holes, you can see blue, and so you need to build support structures in there as well. it can be a problem to get that out. Well, what if we rotated it like that? Not so good, is it? I mean, it looks like maybe even more metal that you need to build and then remove. So that's not good. Any other ideas? What was that, Lee? Flip it around? Yeah? How about this? So now you're removing the supports altogether. You're turning what would otherwise would be supports into features. Is that cool or what? And then even you see the holes here, they're elliptical in shape. If they're round holes, then you'd need supports there. And by making them in this way, you remove the need for support structures. So, Stephen and others throughout the week have talked about design for additive manufacturing. So vital to rethink your design and to do it in maybe entirely different ways. Part consolidation is important, as you see here, and then doing these kinds of what I think are creative ideas. Thanks to one of our associate consultants, Olaf Diegel, brilliant designer, absolutely brilliant. He was also a part of this project. This is a more sophisticated hydraulic manifold. And so you see the conventional version on the left. It goes into this mining equipment in Sweden. And so this is the version that was made by additive manufacturing. Who wants to guess how much lighter weight the version on the right is than on the left? Take a guess. Shout it out. 50%? 60, 70. You're getting closer. You got to go north. 82, that's closer. How much? You're the winner. Well, you came the closest. You're still 91% weight reduction. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, maybe weight reduction isn't quite as important here, but it certainly is on other types of transportation devices, aircraft, and so forth. And this is the kind of thing that can be done, but it takes a lot of rolling up the sleeves and a lot of hard work. It doesn't just happen because you need the tools, you need the experience and expertise, and it takes some trial and error. The odds of getting it right the first time are not very good. Another milestone for the industry is that we reached a $1 billion in sales of materials. And that's pretty cool. And so this is the mix. You can see that photopolymers are still doing well. A very long time ago, we thought, I think there's a limited life to these brittle materials. Of course, the chemical companies, they kept making improvements and got better and better and better. And now we're seeing companies like carbon, where they're using light to set the shape and heat to set the mechanical properties, and companies like Adidas now, they're manufacturing with this, and then companies like Formlabs, they're selling a phenomenal number of machines because that price performance ratio is such that it makes sense to consider it. And so photopolymers continue to do very well. You can see the polymer powders that are being used in the laser sintering machines from the likes of EOS, 3D Systems, of course, the new HP jet fusion machines, and then filaments and metals. Metals are up from 14% a year earlier. And this shows the third-party materials. Now, people that I saw, Carl, is he still in here? Deckard? And many others have been in this business for a very long time. We could count, not that many years ago, we could count on one hand the number of third-party material producers of all processes. And now we see for non-metals, principally polymers, some ceramics, some composites, but mostly polymers, we're seeing 37 metals, 47 up from 39 the year before. And is this all of them? No, we didn't count them all because it's impossible to know every single effort that's going on around the world. But these are the majority of the major ones that we found over the past 12 months. So materials, we agree with the people who say that material cost is very vital. Now, if you're building prototyping quantities, so this box here, or it's the rectangle in the gray, it represents the total cost of a prototype part. The material represents a fairly small part of that. Everything else, like the machine depreciation, labor, overhead, and other costs represent everything else. And the parts can be expensive and the materials can be very expensive, but it really doesn't matter that much. Yeah, it's painful to pull the pocketbook out and pay for it, but it really doesn't matter because the value of building a prototype to validate the design, to get it right early in the design cycle when changes are least expensive, so important. And so, yeah, and that's why for most of the 30 years, we've been able to tolerate these high prices. When the volumes go up, and then it's an inverse in manufacturing, now the materials represent a very big part of that, and that's where cost becomes a showstopper. If you don't, you just say, well, I mean, if you look at conventional manufacturing, that's the way it is. You know, the materials very competitive, many suppliers, and so this is where we need to go as an industry, is transition from these expensive cost models to these more competitive and more affordable models for manufacturing. And those who don't bridge that gap probably won't survive. Just like if you look at the computing industry way back in the 1970s, 80s, and into the 90s, you think about the mainframe and mini computers, Microvax and Sperry, and all these companies that are just a thing of the past because they couldn't make that leap over into that new business model. HP's goal, like Stephen Nigro told me a while back, that the goal at the company is to get it down to about 1.5 times the cost of conventionally used material. Materials used in conventional processes, so it's like polymers for injection molding. That's still the case, right? Yeah. That's the goal. You're going to hit that by next year? Talk to your boss? Oh. I sound like his boss. That would be Dion Weiser. Yeah. I took a picture, the picture you see in the upper left on an aircraft. This is a small, I think it was a Beech 900C. I'm not sure. It might have been a bigger aircraft than that. But in any case, and I sent it to Olaf Diegel in Sweden. He modeled it up for me. So the left is an approximation, but that would be a typical machined aluminum aerospace part that you see. I said, would you optimize it? So you used Inspire from Solid Thinking, an Altair company, and he came up with the design on the right. Anyone want to guess how much material is saved in this little project? A number. How much? Somebody said 90%. Well, not in this case. It's not that's not the answer for everyone. 50. It's somewhere between 50 and 90. It's savings of about 75%. Materials and weight savings, because the one on the left is actually pretty efficient in terms of weight. So the weight savings is not quite as good, but you can imagine how much, if you put a bounding box around that aluminum, you machine away most of it, and that's why there's so much material that goes to scrap. And then we're seeing some really wild designs. I mean, there was a day where you would have lattice, mesh, and cellular structures as one technique, and then you have topology optimization. Now we're seeing tools that combine the two. And my gosh, it's just amazing what can be done now. And that's a real challenge, because I would argue that less than 1% of 1% of the entire engineering and design community worldwide really have much experience with this. And not that everybody does in order for this industry to advance. I was talking with John Del Chinos of Jabil. Jabil is one of the largest contract manufacturers in the world. John, are you in here? And so he was saying, if we have to wait for every part and assembly to be redesigned to manufacture, we'll be waiting a very long time. We will not fill all these seats in this arena. We will not. And so what's exciting to look at is, yeah, we can do this, and many companies will, and those who ignore this will not be as competitive. But meanwhile, we'll see costs be driven down in terms of materials, machines, efficiency, speed will continue to rise. And so that means that fewer will have to be redesigned. And so you could still take a part that you would normally just, mold, produce a tool, mold it, and still justify, if the quantity is right, still justify using 3D printing to build the part. So that takes some weight off of our shoulders as an industry, because if we have to do this, it's going to be decades before we fill all these seats. At SolidWorks World, Desktop Metal introduces software, and I was just astounded. It was the talk of the event. It's called Live Parts. It uses topology optimization and cloud computing it's almost like a living organism. Before your eyes, you're seeing this shape develop. You know, you put in different conditions, loads, holes, and so forth, as you would more manually produced topology optimized parts. But it grows, and it's different than most topology optimization subtracts from a block of material digitally. And this grows, and you can see it before your very eyes. It's pretty cool. I don't know if, do you guys have it in your exhibit? You must. Yeah, so Rick Chin, I thought he was here earlier. He was with SolidWorks for many years and heads up the team, the software team at Desktop Metal. But anyway, it's worth a look. Biomimicry, we have so much to learn from nature that has developed for thousands of years to produce these structures, like a hummingbird and the shark skin. In fact, I have a part that was made by carbon where you cross your finger across it one direction, it's smooth. The other direction, it's rough. And so shapes and features like that. The bone that you see, that's human bone at 100x, and so that can be produced now. And so, I mean, what an exciting opportunity if you're a young person and you're going into a degree program, especially grad school, and you want to, I want to get into additive, but I want to do something maybe a little bit different than everyone else is doing. This is the area to be in, is how do we learn from nature and apply that to additive manufacturing? We've only begun in this area. How many people were here yesterday for the keynote? Was that phenomenal or what? That was absolutely amazing. I mean, these guys the people at Mayo Clinic are doing incredible work. I knew that they'd been working with additive for some time, but I had no idea that the depth and breadth of this. My mother would still be alive. She died from 10 years ago this year from a burst aortic aneurysm, and they're using the new methods that they talked about yesterday, and so if she could have survived a little bit longer, she could have gone to Mayo Clinic and had that procedure done. But I applaud the people that are really focused on the patient and not them and what they're doing there. This is from a publication that SME did recently. It's data from Materialize. They found that as many as 99 hospitals now in the United States are running 3D printing in a centralized way. I had no idea. I was skiing earlier, I think it might have been December, and I rode up the lift with a guy I just happened to be sitting beside. He was a doctor, worked at the Children's Hospital in Denver, Colorado. He said, yeah, we're doing 3D printed models of hearts and other parts for these children. I mean, it's really taken off in a big way, and so it's and then you argue, well, why would you want to do that? I mean, why not just use a service organization down the street? Well, they answered that question yesterday. It's we need that model tomorrow or later today. Let's build it and let's study it. So Andy Christensen, I don't know if you know Andy. Andy really played a strong role and still does in this industry. He ran medical modeling in Littleton, Colorado, actually Golden, but now it's in near Denver, Colorado, for many, many years, and thousands of cases and models and just brilliant work, and then sold the company to 3D Systems, which became 3D Systems Healthcare in Littleton, Colorado, which is really a part of Denver, and doing great work. But anyway, that's Andy. And Andy, are you here? Yeah, all right, there you are. Yeah. So thanks for sharing this with me and giving me the update early this morning. I was up going to work on it. But anyway, the Radiological Society of North America, that's the RSNA, and the American College of Radiology are working to establish coding and reimbursement for anatomic models. And according to Annie, it's really big. It's a big deal. And if you look at, you look at all these things that get in the way of adoption, and in this case, medical models to help people of all kinds around the world so that, surgeries and healthcare can improve. One obstacle is how do you pay for this? And if insurance companies don't help or some source doesn't step in, then it often doesn't happen. And so this could be a real milestone if this happens. So I applaud the work there because it really could make a difference in a big way. This is one of my all-time favorite models. This is made on the Stratasys J750 machine, and I have a little version of it that you can fit in your pocket. I don't know if there's anybody from Stratasys here. I'd like to get a bigger one. Those are really big ones, and so if maybe there's somebody here who can help me out. But our daughter's in the medical field, and so I think she would get a kick out of it as well. But in any case, this is now possible, and it has been for some time. These are models off of the new HP color process, and so these are in a nylon material in full color. So you can drop them, you can beat them up, and they'll survive. And so these are some examples, including some medical models that you see here, a leg prosthetic in the upper right, a really cool design in the top center of this helmet that helps to reshape a baby's head that when they are born and they need to be reshaped, and it's very gentle, it's cool looking, it's probably comfortable too. I never asked the baby if it is, but it must be, surely. But in any case, this is it's coming soon, so we'll have choice is good. As customers of this technology, it's good to have choice, and this is another option. How important is color? Color isn't important for some parts, but it's vitally important. And I think the market opportunity in corporate giveaways, trophy, gifts, all these things that people exchange. And so this is a flash drive that Olaf Diegel modeled up a while ago. It's probably been 3 years now. We've done a lot of monochrome. Looking at the SolidWorks model, looks pretty good. You print it. It's not bad, but it doesn't stand out. It does not stand out. So this is the solid. I was hoping to bring the HP version of this, but these guys dropped. No, and so we're working on it. But that's a SolidWorks version. We're hopeful that it'll look something like the upper right. But what a big difference between the two. And you can imagine, we live in a world of color. And so I think for so many products, this color will be important. And so Mamaki, I don't know if you've taken a look at that. It's an exhibitor here, Japanese company. Really impressive work. And so it's competition is good, so it'll give competition. It already has the 3D systems and others in this business. So another question for the people in this room, what do all of these parts have in common? Anybody? My name, okay, that's right. Most of them have been personalized. They've all been 3D printed, that's correct. They were all given to me as a gift. Most recently, the 3D printed titanium pen set that you see in the upper left with our logo in the one. You see the distillery, the still? Of course, we can't use that in the state of Colorado. Well, I use it for purifying water, of course. The point I want to make here is that these are all given to me, and I will never, ever, ever get rid of them. Ever. They're of high value to me, more so than any other products that you might buy at Amazon or elsewhere. And so another point to dovetail into that is that you can capitalize on this. You can charge a premium for products that are special, and you don't have to do a lot. They can be very almost a subtle personalization that doesn't take a lot, and people will pay more for those products. And the two on the lower right are gifts from, attending an event like this, and they hand it to you at the end, and it's like, wow, this is cool. Having your name on it, you'll have it forever. And so think about that. That's an opportunity for the people in this room as to, how do you do that? So this is a typical warehouse, and you can see a whole lot of boxes, and this is, this is around the world. We see this every day. How can we move it from this to this? Bits and bytes, digital inventories, our products sitting on servers, and then an order comes in and you print on demand. So that's the vision. That's where this industry would like to go. But it becomes overwhelming. Companies like Caterpillar, John Deere, and a host of others, Case, and not only agriculture and heavy equipment, but companies of all types, they see this, but it becomes overwhelming. Of course, you don't try to do it all at once. You do it in phases over many years. But you think about, has any company done this successfully ever? I mean, that scaled it to thousands or tens of thousands of parts? Yes, Shapeways. All of and they have hundreds of shop owners, people like you and me, that can set up, upload data, and then it is manufactured when the order comes in. And so it can be done. It's just that, it does take a commitment, and it takes years for it to develop. As consumers, we have a real appetite for variety. So suppose you're an eyewear company, and you're offering volumes of 250,000, 10 different models. Each model, we'll say, is in the range of 25,000 units. Now, suppose you have a competitor that is offering the same quantity but has 1,000 models. Which company is going to be more successful? If you're going online or going into a shop to pick out some frames, which one is going to be more appealing? The people want variety. Suppose you could do this. Every one is different, where you get scanned. And so companies now are doing that, like Materialize with Hoya, which is the largest lens company in the world. Now they're working toward changing the business model for eyewear. And I think we'll see a lot of other products that do this as well. Research and development. This is this got our attention before this year, but you can see that upward growth trend. Phenomenal number of patents. So that the applications are on the left, the green, and then on the right, far right, are the issued patents. So that's an indication of the development, research and development that's going on behind the scenes. A whole lot of it. And so where's this work going on? Well, it's going on around the world and universities, but it's not the universities and government research institutes. It's most of these patents are coming out of companies. It's the corporate world that's doing the lion's share of this work. I knew that you wouldn't be able to see the details here, but for the first time in our report, or the annual report that we do, we looked at startup companies and then these investments. So what it does is it tries to outline these companies and the source of the investment, and then how much money is being given to these companies. And we count over $700 million to these 48 startup companies. So that's that's significant. And there's just one example. Some of these investments, they range from a million or more to a couple $100 million. A presentation on this subject would be incomplete without talking about the low-cost systems. I mean, they caught a lot of us by surprise. It was in 2007 when they really started. I think it was 66 units were sold after the RepRot project took off, and the FDM patents from Stratasys expired before then, or around that time, and then the rest is history. So you can see the growth trajectory there. And just to give you some appreciation for this, roughly 529,000 units that we estimate, exactly 14,636 industrial above $5,000 machines. So the graph shows the below 5,000, the number on the right above, which is a difference of about 36 times. So they really are two very different animals. But what we're finding is that they're beginning to grow together, both in, capabilities. I mean, the early, back in 2007, 7, 8, 9, 10, those machines weren't the best. Now, these desktop machines under $5,000, some of them are very, very good. To the extent where many companies are buying them, they would otherwise have bought maybe a $15, $50, even $200,000 machine to do, prototypes, maybe some tools, some design validation. Now are buying these and equipping their engineers and designers with them. So, one isn't more important than the other, the low end or the high end. There's a role and an important place for both. I want to also use this as an indication. I was, watching this event grow. As Stephen said, you have a good memory. This is the 26th year for the exhibition, 28 years for the entire event with a conference. Started out as I think a clinic in 1991. 93 was the first conference and exposition. In any case, you can see the recent growth of this event, and it's been very, very strong. And then this year, the exhibition has grown by almost 26%. I mean, this is a serious event. I mean, it's just like a playground for us techies. It's so much fun. In some ways, I wish it went 2 weeks so I could see everything, although I'd be totally exhausted if it went that long. But in any case, in the report that we do, the Wohlers Report, we get contributions from around the world. We have sections on the major countries that are doing work in this area, adopting the technology, and we try to quantify that. But most of these contributions are qualitative analysis. So it's like a mini state of the industry report, and in this case, Germany. So these two individuals, a gentleman from Siemens on the industrial side, and then a person from one of the Fraunhofer Institutes, contributed this section, and they reminded me when I read it that this event, which is in its fourth year coming up in Frankfurt, grew 53% last year to 470 exhibitors. Pretty phenomenal. And 60% growth to 21,492 visitors worldwide. And so thanks to the group in Frankfurt, thanks to Rapid News, TCT organization for doing this, a phenomenal event. Like this one, it's just a different animal in terms of scale, but it's a great event. And I like to say that if you're in this part of the world, you've got to attend this, and if you're in that part of the world, you've got to attend that event. But these numbers are really encouraging after 30 years in this business. So in the future, we're seeing growth numbers like this. I've heard people say, take these numbers with a grain of salt, and they're absolutely correct. These are guesses. These are absolutely guesses. And so will we be right? Well, we hope so. We do take our history, we extend trend lines, and that helps us. We look at, investments, company startups, and where this industry is going, and we adjust that growth curve, that trend line. We adjust that, but it's a data point to consider. So the term additive manufacturing, I don't think we have really fully appreciated what. So let me back up. So it was inspired by SME when SME went to the ASTM to form the standards organization, and so the idea was, well, we need standards around this, and now it's ISO and ASTM are working together. But the point is that the group had to name itself, and it really had to put a label on this industry. And by consensus, because that's the way ASTM works, it was decided to name it additive manufacturing. Everybody agreed, or everybody. It has to be 100%. If one person, and it can be a big company like HP or a small company like Wohlers Associates, we say, hey, no. It can bring a stop to these terminology standards. But in any case, additive manufacturing was decided, and I don't think we fully appreciate the impact. Who wants to use prototyping technology to manufacture parts? And it just has a different feel and a different meaning, especially to people that are new to this. And it really, I think, made a difference when we started calling this additive manufacturing. It really brought something to this industry that we don't fully appreciate. And then for everybody else, 3D printing, and we can use the same term, it can mean the same thing. We use them interchangeably, that's okay. But I really think it's important to not underestimate what these terms mean. So in conclusion, the industry could not be a whole lot stronger. Its metal AM is just skyrocketing. Opportunities and challenges in design. Product variety is important. A lot of investment in R&D, and a very, very exciting future for us and a host of others around the world. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Terry. That's amazing. Thanks so much for being here again. I'm glad I didn't actually run you over last night.
Oh.
Funny story. We were driving to dinner, and Terry crossed the street, and it was almost a blank stage this morning. So we have the Slido.com up. We have some time for Q&A with Terry. I know you're probably going to want to ask him some questions. The instructions are right there on the screen. You can submit your questions here, and we'll ask those. So you talked a lot about the longevity of the industry, right, and how you've kind of been here since the beginning, right? And what would you say to those companies out there now who are newbies, who are coming in now for the first time, about the things that they should consider when they're adopting additive manufacturing technology?
That's a good question. Well, a lot of things. One is don't believe everything you read. Mm-hmm. Don't get in a big hurry to buy new equipment. There's a lot of good service organizations out there to try before you buy. Education and training is absolutely important. Do you know the difference between education and training?
That's a good one.
Huh?
I do.
Well, okay. So a friend by the name of Dr. Joel Orr explained it like this. He said, would you rather have your son or daughter attend sex education or sex training? And so, so yeah, I get it now. And so in this case, these companies need both. You need the awareness, the excitement, the education, but you also need the hands-on learning, how to drive these tools, the technicians, understanding the post-processing and all that goes into it. So to really go into it and to have a strategy, a short-term, how to have internal conferences, attend events like this, and just be a sponge and take it all in. But don't wait forever, because it'd be like if you waited for the best laptop computer, you'd never own one. So you've got to at some point, dig in and do some things.
Take the leap and jump off the cliff, right?
That's right, yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Here's another question from our audience as well, which is, a lot of people are interested in what's happening internationally a little bit, and you do travel, and you get around town and kind of see what's happening. This question is, what's happening in Latin America? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, there's activity in that part of the world. It has been a bit slower than the rest of the world, but we are seeing some movement there, mm-hmm. and so I'm encouraged by that. They can benefit from these products and services just as much as anyone else. But it's interesting that Asia is actually leapfrogged out ahead of certainly Latin America. And so maybe that's the next market opportunity for some of the people in the room, is to tap into that area of the world.
Mm-hmm. Hablo español. Get going. All right.
Very good.
That's all I've got. That, and I can order a beer. It's all good.
Bueno.
So here's another question. This is from Andy. What do you see in the industry related to functional printed electronics?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to happen as quickly as maybe some of us would want. So, Andy, you're referring to like fully printed Andy Christensen?
It just says Andy.
Oh, just saying, okay. So it could be another Andy.
Could be more than one.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like, for example, printing sensors, like the creep sensors on these turbine blades for GE that is being done with the aerosol jet from Optimec. We'll see a lot of those kinds of, very specialized applications where there's but as far as printing entire circuits, well, there's nano dimension in Israel that's doing that, but that's really for prototyping quantities. It's quite good, but slow. I think we've got a lot of work yet to be done. I'm hopeful that companies will keep pushing the limits on that with conductive materials, but efficiencies is always a challenge. Can you really do that to make it work well? So, yeah, we've seen progress along the way, but it's things sometimes take a lot longer than you would like.
Right, that's true. Here's another question from Walter. Thank you, Walter. Why is metal material growth not tracking with machine sales? Wondering about the curves, I guess, or some of the adoptions. Like maybe if the materials, why is metal material growth not tracking with machine sales? I guess possibly because not every machine is metal, but.
Yeah, I don't know that we know that. I guess, okay, so if you look at the adoption of metal machines, the typical way that happens is a company will buy 1, 2, or 3 machines, and they'll use them for testing, and so they aren't really into manufacturing quantities yet, and so that comes later, and so I would guess that we'll see some pent-up demand for materials as companies then buy 3, 5, 10 machines or more for manufacturing. Well, then we'll see a real need for materials. We don't really know the answer to that question, though, quantitatively, because we haven't tracked exactly how the two line up. In other words, we haven't, at least we haven't published, I think we have the data, but we haven't published exactly the trend or growth of the amount of material in metals compared to the unit sales of machines.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. This is from my favorite friend, Anonymous. So, do you think we're focusing too much on small-scale printing and not enough on large-scale?
Small scale is in like micro or nanoscale?
They did not specify, so.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take that as small as in being, relatively small parts.
Smaller envelope, right?
Yeah, these machines are not, most of them are not terribly fast, so once you start to scale up big, then it can take a long time depending upon the process. And so, I think the next frontier really is to have machines like the Cincinnati, that machine that, came out of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the BAM machine, big area manufacturing. Machines like that can use injection molding pellets and build, quickly, and then the surfaces that require it, you can machine them or somehow surface finish those. And so, yeah, I think it really is partly speed. It's more expensive and risky to develop a big machine and then just put it out there and see if there's so often you need a sponsor. Like when Stratasys first developed its Fortis 900 MC, they had a sponsor. They didn't disclose, I think to this day, I don't think they ever disclosed, but there was a sponsor, a company that, funded that effort, and then they were given, the right to sell it to others. And so you really need that. And so they are coming, absolutely.
Great. Sharon has a question about file formats, always a good topic around here. Will alternative file formats such as AMF ever replace STL?
I hope so. STL has stood the test of time, and it's a solid format, but there's it's colorblind. It's you can't store units. There's a lot of redundancy. It's inefficient. So AMF, 3MF, I think probably has a better chance only because of the companies and the effort behind it. And so, yeah, I think eventually it will happen. And I think too that we have technology now that is ahead of the designs. Now we have a mechanism to move that design data to the machines, like 3MF and AMF. 3MF, yeah. And so now we have to have the design tools, and they're coming to help support the machines that can produce these, incredible parts.
That's awesome. Here's another question. Another Andy. Thank you. That's what they typed in here. What is the state of FAA certification for production parts for aircraft?
Oh, that's a little bit out of my area, but I know last couple of years, the people from the FAA have been here, and they've been working with Air Force and other groups, the commercial groups, and so there's definitely activity, and they're trying to wrap their heads. I know they're members of America Makes. America Makes, by the way, I didn't really talk about it. Great organization. It has done so much, up to 220 members. But in any case, America Makes is also, I think, a part of working with the FAA to help understand, what do they need to look at to certify these designs. So, yeah, it's something that it takes time. They don't want to rush into this for obvious reasons.
And they should not.
They should not. No, absolutely not.
All right. Thanks, Terry, so much for everything.
You're welcome.
Let's thank Terry again for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Terry.
Oh.
Just a token of our appreciation for
thank
being
you very
here
much.
this morning.
I appreciate
You can
it.
add it to your collection.
Oh,
He's one of
thanks.
our long-serving keynoters. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so Terry, you might want to stick around. We've got 3 winners of the Wohlers Report, your favorite Christmas gift for all. And we're going to announce those right now. Do I have a list? All right, Terry, you're going to have to give me 3 numbers, and I don't have a list, so let's just write those down. Pick 3 numbers.
Am I still on? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, these are just random numbers. I didn't want to pick the ones I picked yesterday or the day
that's
before.
good.
So I'm going to go with 197.
Okay. Oh, I have a list. Perfect. All right. Hopefully you are 197, you lucky people out there, and you can read this on your way home on the airplane. That is Jeff Gerbeck. Jeff Gerbeck at MCOM. All right, Jeff, come see us afterwards. Let's get another number.
Okay, how about, I don't know, this is so hard.
I know, there's so many numbers to pick from.
They're hard. 529.
529. Okay, 529 is Carl Hinselman at Kohler. Carl, congratulations. All right, let's pick one more.
Okay. Number 1.
Number 1, the very first person to register for the Rapid Plus TCT conference, Mark Lester at NIBCO. Mark, congratulations.
All right.
Way to be an early bird. You're the winner. All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you,
Appreciate
Debbie.
that. All right, so start your engines, people, or start dancing in the streets. Rapid Plus TCT is coming to Detroit, Motown, my hometown, next year, May 20th through the 23rd. So excited to see Rapid Plus TCT there, a dynamic, energized city, so much to do, so many great things happening in Detroit. If you were there a couple years ago, you won't recognize it. It's amazing, and we're going to have so many more great surprises and things happening for you. A world-class international airport. Invite your friends from around the world to come to Rapid Plus TCT. And don't forget our 2 new events, Rapid Plus TCT West, Rapid Plus TCT Executive Summit, and the Executive Summit in Palm Desert, October 17th and 18th, 2018. Bridging the gap between business leadership and technical leadership, guiding investment decisions, providing insight, maximizing ROI, valuable executive connections and networking. And then next fall, Rapid Plus TCT West comes to Santa Clara, California, October 9th and 10th. Thank you so much for being here today, and the show is now open.